People often say time heals all wounds, but some scars are too deep, hidden beneath the surface, masked by smiles, and concealed by sweet voices. If anyone had told me that my life would change the day my father remarried, I would have laughed it off like a harmless joke. But life has a funny way of proving us wrong when we least expect it. Before my stepmother came into our lives, it was just me and my dad. My mother passed away when I was 8, a soft, sunny woman who smelled of lavender and always hummed old-school gospel tunes while cooking. Her absence left a hollow in our small home, but Dad did his best to fill it with love, warmth, and bedtime stories. We weren't rich, but we had each other, and that was enough. The house was quiet but peaceful, tucked in a modest neighborhood with flowered lawns and barking dogs. I went to school like any other girl, came home to help with chores, and read books until I fell asleep. I missed Mom every day, but I was okay, until she walked in. Her name was Anita, and I met her one evening when I came home to find my father smiling wider than I'd seen in years. She had perfect curls, red lipstick, and a voice that was too soft, too practiced, like a lullaby on a loop. "This is Ms. Anita," my dad said proudly, like he was introducing me to royalty. "She's going to be spending some time with us." At first, everything seemed perfect. Anita moved into the house 2 weeks after Dad proposed to her. There was no wedding, no ceremony, just a quiet registry signing on a Wednesday afternoon, followed by dinner at a small restaurant. I sat silently at the table while they laughed and fed each other spoonfuls of fried rice and peppered chicken like newlyweds in a movie. I didn't say much, just picked at my food and forced a smile when Dad looked my way. "She's just shy," Anita told the waiter when he asked if I was okay. "She's adjusting." Adjusting. That word followed me like a shadow. Everyone expected me to adjust. To share my father, my home, my life, with a woman I barely knew and her 2 children I hadn't even met yet. Her kids came the following weekend. 2 of them. Chinaza, the older daughter, was 13, same age as me, but with an attitude that reeked of arrogance. Her younger brother, Kamsi, was 9. At first glance, they seemed polite, quiet even, but that silence didn't last. I remember their first night in the house. Anita made a big show of preparing dinner, jollof rice, fried plantains, grilled chicken, and fresh juice. She served everyone with a smile, laughing and cracking jokes as if we were on a reality TV show. Dad looked at her like she was a miracle. But behind that smile was something cold, something only I could see. The way she glanced at me when Dad wasn't looking. The way her lips tightened when I reached for more plantains. That night, after everyone had gone to bed, I came downstairs for a glass of water. As I tiptoed past the kitchen, I heard her on the phone. "Yes, the fool thinks I'm an angel," she said, laughing. "He doesn't even notice how useless that girl is." My heart stopped. I stood frozen, my breath caught in my throat. She was talking about me. Useless. I crept back to my room and cried into my pillow. That was the first night I truly felt alone. The next morning, she was sweet again. Made pancakes, kissed Dad goodbye, packed our lunch bags with smiles and soft words. No one suspected anything. No one but me. It started with the little things. The first time I noticed it, we were getting ready for school. My backpack had torn slightly at the edge, and I asked Anita if she could help me stitch it or maybe buy a new one. She gave me a tight smile. "You can manage it a bit longer, can't you?" she said, handing Chinaza a brand new pink backpack with glitter and sequins. "We can't waste money on unnecessary things." I nodded, holding back the sting in my chest. It was fine, I was used to managing. But that day in school, when the bag finally gave way and my books tumbled out in the hallway, I felt something deeper than embarrassment. I felt invisible. Chinaza and Kamsi never seemed to lack anything. New clothes, new shoes, packed lunches filled with snacks I used to only see in advertisements. Meanwhile, I had to make do with my old uniforms and plain food. I didn't complain. At least not out loud. Every time Dad was around, Anita was all smiles and honey. "Oh, she's my daughter too," she would say, resting a hand on my shoulder with fake affection. "I love them all equally." But the moment the front door closed behind him in the mornings, her tone would shift like a switch had flipped. "You heard what I said, didn't you?" she snapped at me one day when I left my plate in the sink. "Don't expect me to clean up after you like your dead mother might have." The words cut so deep, I couldn't speak for a minute. My mother, her memory, was sacred to me. Anita knew that. And she used it like a weapon. That afternoon, when Dad came back from work, I tried to tell him. "Dad," I started cautiously, "do you think do you think she likes me?" He smiled, pulling me into a quick hug. "Of course she does, sweetheart. She's trying. Just give her time. It's not easy blending families." But I had already given her time. What more did he want me to give? Worse still, she began sowing little seeds of doubt between Dad and me. If I forgot to do a chore, she exaggerated it. If I got home a little late from school, she made it seem like I had been wandering irresponsibly. "She's becoming rebellious," I once overheard her whisper. "You need to discipline her more." Discipline? For what? I couldn't understand how the man who used to tuck me in every night and sing off-key lullabies now barely looked at me the same way. It was as if she had cast a spell on him, one that erased every moment we had before she entered our lives. And in the silence of my room, I would stare at the ceiling, wondering how a home so full of love could feel so empty. There's a kind of pain that doesn't leave bruises. No cuts, no wounds, just a slow, silent breaking that happens inside your chest. That was the kind of pain I lived with every day. To the outside world, our family looked like a picture of perfection. Neighbors often complimented Anita. "She's such a wonderful woman," they'd say. "So graceful. So loving. Your daughter is lucky to have her." I'd smile politely, nodding along, while my throat tightened with unshed tears. No one knew what happened behind the polished front door once it clicked shut. No one saw how she would serve Chinaza and Kamsi steaming bowls of jollof rice with grilled chicken wings, then hand me a plate of watery soup and stale bread. "You should learn to appreciate simple meals," she'd say. No one saw how she conveniently forgot to include me when taking the others shopping or to amusement parks. Oh, it slipped my mind. "She must have been sleeping," she'd tell Dad with a look of concern. No one saw how she turned Chinaza against me, whispering lies and painting me as jealous and spoiled. The girl who once greeted me with shy smiles now threw smug glances my way, acting like the queen of the house. Even Kamsi, innocent at first, started picking up on his mother's behavior. He'd call me names when no one was listening: step rat, leftover daughter, maid. And if I reacted, Anita would scold me harshly, sometimes with a slap across the cheek, claiming I was bullying her children. I started to withdraw, from everything. From school, from friends, from my father. There were days I sat in class, staring at the board, unable to focus. My grades slipped. My teachers noticed, but I couldn't bring myself to explain. At night, I'd write in my journal. It became the only place I could scream without being heard. Why doesn't he see me anymore? I miss my real mom. Maybe if I disappeared, they'd be happy. There were moments I stared at the mirror and wondered if there was something wrong with me. Was I really the problem? Was I really as unwanted as she made me feel? Then came the incident with the birthday. It was Chinaza's birthday, and Anita threw a party that could have been featured in a magazine. Balloons, catering, music, even rented costumes. Guests filled the house, and laughter echoed in every room. I stood in a corner, watching, dressed in the same old gown I'd worn to church 3 Sundays in a row. When it came time to cut the cake, Anita stood beside Chinaza, her arm wrapped around her proudly. "To my princess," she said with a warm smile, "the daughter I never had but always wanted." The room clapped. I froze. Not one person noticed the crack that formed in my heart at that moment. Later that night, after the guests had gone and the lights were dimmed, I quietly asked her, "Why did you say that? You already have me." She looked at me with a blank face. "You," she scoffed. "You were never mine. Don't mistake tolerance for love." And with that, she walked away. After that night, something inside me shifted. It wasn't loud. It didn't come with a scream or a slam of the door. It was quiet, like a light switch flipped off inside me. I stopped talking unless I had to. I stopped asking for anything. I stopped trying to be seen. Each day felt like walking through a fog: school, home, silence, repeat. I became a ghost in my own house. I ate quickly and quietly. I cleaned before anyone asked. I stayed in my room whenever I could. It felt safer that way. Anita, of course, didn't mind my silence. In fact, I think she preferred it. "I think she's finally maturing," she told my father one evening, loud enough for me to hear from the hallway. "She's learning her place." My place. As if I were some outsider, an uninvited guest overstaying her welcome in her own home. Dad nodded. "You've done so much for her, Anita. I can't thank you enough." I wanted to scream. I wanted to rush in and shake him, make him see. But instead, I stood frozen in the hallway, my fists clenched at my sides, nails digging into my palms. At school, my teachers noticed my decline. I was once top of my class. Now I barely submitted assignments. I sat in the back row, avoiding eye contact. Miss Tolu, my literature teacher, called me aside after class one day. "You used to love writing," she said gently. "Where did that girl go?" I didn't know how to answer her. At home, I started to sleep more, sometimes for hours in the afternoon just to escape. My dreams were the only place I felt safe. I dreamt of my mother a lot. In those dreams, she would hold my hand, brush my hair, whisper, "You matter, baby. I see you." But waking up was always the worst part. One Saturday, Anita hosted a women's fellowship at the house. The living room was filled with church women, dressed in bright wrappers, gelly tied high, laughter filling the room. I stayed upstairs, as usual, until I heard my name. "Oh, yes," Anita said sweetly. "My stepdaughter is such a blessing. Always so helpful. Quiet, obedient. I just love her like my own." I stared at the ceiling in disbelief. The lies flowed from her mouth like honey, sweet and poisonous. A few of the women asked to meet me. Anita called me downstairs, putting her arm around me like a prized possession. "This one," she said, smiling, "she's my first daughter. She lost her mother, but God gave her another one." I smiled too, but my smile was empty, automatic, lifeless. No one noticed. Because no one really looked. Later that evening, after they left, I was cleaning up the dishes when I accidentally dropped a glass. It shattered on the kitchen floor. Anita came flying in, her eyes cold and hard. "Are you stupid? Do you know how expensive that glass was? Do you think I work for you?" "I'm sorry," I whispered, my voice barely audible. "You're always sorry," she snapped. "Your mother must have been weak to raise such a useless girl." I looked up, eyes burning, but I didn't respond. What was the point? She pushed past me and stormed out. And as I crouched to clean up the shards, something inside me whispered, "This is not how your story ends." But I didn't believe it, not yet. There's a breaking point for everyone. For me, it came quietly, not with a scream, but a whisper in my soul that said, "Enough." It was a Tuesday afternoon, the sun hanging lazily in the sky as I walked home from school. I had lingered longer at the library, pretending to study, just so I wouldn't have to go home early. When I finally approached our gate, I heard laughter. Chinaza and Kamsi were outside eating ice cream from plastic cups, laughing as Anita filmed them on her phone. When she noticed me, her smile dropped. "Why are you late?" she barked, quickly lowering her phone. "I stayed after school to finish an assignment," I said. "Lies," she snapped. "You were probably loitering like those street girls. If you want to be useless, do it somewhere else." I said nothing. But inside, something hardened. Later that evening, as I swept the hallway, I heard her talking on the phone in the living room. She was laughing, sounding like the sweetest woman alive. "Oh yes, I love all my children equally. My husband's daughter. Oh, she's like my own. She's such a joy." My stomach turned. I knew the truth. She wasn't just pretending for outsiders anymore, she was convincing the world of a lie so well rehearsed that even my father believed it. That night, I sat at my desk, staring at a blank page. I didn't want to write another diary entry. I didn't want to cry again. I wanted something more. So I began to write something different. One day, they will see the truth. One day, I'll rise so high, no one will ever push me aside again. It wasn't just words, it was a vow. I began to change in small ways. I started reading again, not because I had to, but because I wanted to learn. I buried myself in books, biographies of strong women, novels where girls like me became something more. I found quiet strength in their stories. At school, I started raising my hand again. I answered questions. I participated in group work. My teachers noticed. Miss Tolu smiled at me one morning and said, "You're coming back to life." I'm glad. But at home, I didn't give Anita the satisfaction of seeing me fight. I was calm. Polite. Controlled. I did what I had to, but I no longer tried to please her. And that drove her mad. She began pushing harder. Small things. Throwing away my school notes. Hiding my school sandals. Making Chinaza copy my homework and claim it as hers. But each time, I found a way around her games. I stopped reacting. I stopped breaking. Instead, I kept writing. Not just diary entries, but stories, poems, plans for a future far beyond her reach. One day, I caught her watching me from the doorway as I scribbled into a worn-out notebook. "What are you always writing in there?" she asked with narrowed eyes. I looked up and smiled. "Just my story." And for once, she didn't know how to respond. Maybe she sensed it, that the girl she once crushed under her heels was starting to rise. And this time, I wasn't going to fade quietly.